Welcome, everyone. I'm Amy Seeley, president of Seeley Test Pros and LEAP, helping students to succeed in all kinds of tests from 8th grade to grad school throughout Ohio.
And I'm Mike Bergen, president of Chariot Learning, helping students with Test School and Life based out of Rochester, New York.
Between the three of us today, we have over 79 years of experience at the highest levels of the test preparation and supplemental education industries.
We both love to talk and learn about the latest issues in education, testing, and admissions. So let's get down to tests and the rest. The fascinating test prep professional we want to profile today is Ren Abraham. We are so happy to be speaking with you today, Ren. How are you?
Doing well. Thank you for having me.
So, Ren, can you tell us a little bit about where you are and what you do?
Yeah, absolutely. I'm in the Philly suburbs, Huntingdon Valley specifically. I'm a test prep tutor. I also do academic tutoring. I totally forgot to mention my business name. It's Telos Tutors. Let me spell that. Telos Tutors. And I've been in business since 2016, and we've been focusing mostly on academic tutoring, so about 80% academic, but we've been trying to shift to more test prep over time, especially recently in the past couple of years, especially with the launch of the digital SAT.
Sure. So, what sort of prompted you to get into test prep, or what did you do before you started doing test prep?
I was a teacher for 10 years in various contexts, starting out with middle school math and then doing some other things after that. But yeah, I've been in education and wanted to stick with education, even though I felt like I was done with the classroom. And so I, yeah, got my start at a Huntingdon Learning Center as a part-time tutor and realized that part-time and a tutoring center wage was not going to pay the bills. And so
It does not.
decided that I could probably do better on my own, as scary as that idea is, because I wasn't raised or encouraged to pursue entrepreneurship growing up or even as a young professional.
I think
Go ahead.
educators don't. It's funny when you're saying this, it's making me think in education, we don't tend to think entrepreneurially generally.
Right.
And like as you discovered, you like education, maybe not in a school, but in the private sector, if you're working for a big box company, there is it's you can't really live on it, right? So finding a way to become an educational entrepreneur is really the pathway I like to think to a more fulfilling life. Has that been your
Yeah,
experience, Ren?
it has been fulfilling. There have been ups and downs, of course. There were times where I did want to hang it up and go back to the classroom to find the safety and comfort of having a boss, a structure, an organization, a rhythm, a schedule, all that stuff just made up for me. And having to manage myself, I found was not the easiest thing in the world. I suddenly understood why other people might have had some interesting times managing me, but yeah.
It's true.
Well, no,
We
you
do
know, just
learn about ourselves. I've learned through my entrepreneurial journey also why people couldn't manage me, and I'm a terrible employee.
yeah.
Just
Well,
incorrigible, Mike.
but you have to have, I think, boundaries on yourself, right? Like you have to be really good, or I shouldn't say you have to be good, but it's an effort to realize that, like in your entrepreneurial journey, you've got to hold yourself accountable. And what does that look like, right? And for all of us, it looks different. Like I'm sure all of our friends and stuff in the industry, it looks different, but I think you have to have that awareness of how do I want to kind of gatekeep myself sometimes?
Yeah, and
Yeah,
also if you are someone who's part of a practice and you do have a manager or supervisor or a boss, keep that in mind too. Like be someone who can be led properly in that format. Don't give your boss such a hard time. If you want the structure and you want to be part of a practice, integrate.
yeah. And I guess as a boss of myself right now, learning how to manage myself as a person and prepare the content materials as best as I can for my students. Yeah, I am building that awareness as you said, Amy. It's crucial to know who you are, where your strengths lie and where your areas of growth are. And so for me right now, as a solopreneur that wants to grow the business, what I want to do is systematize everything that I do, creates SOPs, standard operating procedures for all the various systems or processes, operations that we have. And so, I'm using this we as this royal we, but yeah,
Right
like I
now,
said,
you're a solo practice.
Right.
yeah, it's an aspirational we, and you'll notice that the business name is Telos Tutors. It's plural, but and I've been Telos Tutors as a solopreneur for 9 years now,
Yeah.
and so I'm finally getting there. Though
You
I
build with the end in mind. If it
No,
was
that's
just tell us
100%.
tutor, you would have to change your name eventually, right?
right, I had to be forward thinking.
He'd be on his literature just writing in the S at the end,
That's
right? Like
exactly
that'd be
right.
kind of cool.
The
Just
tell
Sharpie it
us
in.
tutor.
With a big S at the end. That's how I would think
Yes,
about it, right? Yeah.
right, right.
So what
So
has your training been like in terms of getting more into the test prep space?
Yeah. So Huntington Learning Center, that was very brief, but it was valuable to see how a test prep program can be structured. I know everyone does things differently, and so yeah, after leaving Huntington Learning Center, I just cut my teeth on my own as a independent contractor with Varsity Tutors.
Hmm,
Is another marketplace out there
sure.
that matches tutors with students, and I did a lot of GRE tutoring, GRE prep with them, and that was really good. And yeah,
but you taught yourself
kept
GRE, right? You didn't, their varsity doesn't have a training program, does it?
yeah, exactly. That is where I was going with that. So yeah, as an independent contractor, they don't closely manage what you do with their clients, and so I have to provide all the content, the material, and I had to train myself as to what to use. Do I use Manhattan Prep books, or do I supplement with a Magoosh subscription or whatnot? So I had to provide that structure for students.
Varsity is a great sort of way to sort of start your journey and then like figure yourself out, like you're saying, like your curriculum, your pedagogy, to then be able to launch yourself into your own really 100% probably solo practice. They sort of provide you the students, but you get a lot of freedom in terms of what you do, which I think can be really interesting.
Yeah, it is interesting, and so it's all about iterating, see what works, see what doesn't work, and yeah, try again.
Yeah, absolutely. So, Ren, what are your favorite aspects of working in test prep?
What I really love about test prep and just tutoring in general is the relationships that I've developed with families over time, especially with those academic tutoring relationships. Those tend to uh, continue from year to year. And so I'll be working with a student for up to maybe 3 or 4 years even. And so those relationships have become really meaningful. And those uh, families will then refer me to people that they really care about. And so I'm slowly but surely building a network and a community that uh, really values and trusts each other. And so there's something to say about the power of word of mouth and just the deepness of those connections. That's not something that I experienced as a classroom teacher. If I was relating to the parents, it was usually under not under the not best circumstances. Yeah.
Duress. I was putting words in
Thanks.
your mouth there, but
Yeah,
I had a feeling I knew
I,
what
I I wanted to
you were
say it
looking for.
delicately. Like I don't want to make it sound too adversarial. But yeah, more often than not, when parents get involved in the school setting, it's because something has gone wrong. Whereas a tutor, I'm coming in as the superhero. I'm coming in to save the day, and so those relationships right from the beginning. Uh, are very positive, hopeful, and and it's honestly not too hard to deliver. And so once you know what you're doing, and I've been doing this long enough to say that I know what I'm doing, yeah, it feels good to enter that space and say, okay, let's work. And and the results usually follow.
So, what would you say you find particularly frustrating or challenging about this test prep space?
Um, yeah, I think in coming from the classroom where I was expected to provide a lot of accountability, I got comfortable in the tutoring space, in not bad guy, not having to put the screws to the kid and hold their feet to the fire, etc. But over time, as I've shifted more and more towards test prep, I realized that the accountability piece is super important. That if the students aren't putting in the time and the effort, that the results do not follow. And so I've had to find that sweet spot of uh, being the gentle, encouraging, supportive figure, but also um, yeah, confronting students with the reality of how they're contributing to the process. What are they doing? What are they not doing? Why are they doing or not doing what they know they should do, and so on and so forth. So, um, yeah, I've found my role expanding, and at first it felt uncomfortable, but I'm finding comfort with it.
Yeah, it's interesting because when you describe that process, I think of that as being the heart of tutoring. Like the heart, like you're empowered to tell the student what the student is doing wrong and how they should fix it, and not have to be held back by any kind of administrative restrictions where the school says you cannot criticize a student, or you're concerned about other factors in a purely instructional relationship. The role of
Hmm.
the tutor or coach is to support what is being done well, to point out what can be improved upon, and strongly encourage persistently that growth.
Yeah, yeah, it's that coaching side of things, uh, focusing on the person, the learner themselves, and not just the content or the strategies, which of course are important, but uh, it's the person that
Right.
ultimately has to perform, and how do we get that person to be in better control of themselves? And so, yeah, I've come to embrace that part of the work.
I can see how that's difficult coming from a classroom, right? In the classroom, it feels in our society that people think the teachers are in charge of learning,
Hmm.
when ultimately the locus for learning is in the student. The teacher's in charge of teaching and ideally teach in a way that students learn, but the responsibility is on each individual to learn.
Yeah, yeah, and gosh, I could open up all kinds of cans of conversation there. But yeah, I think one challenge or another challenge that comes to mind recently is that question of whether to center the student in the learning process or be the sage on the stage and just
Right.
provide direct instruction. And yeah, as a teacher, I was always moving more and more towards the student, centering the student in the process. And I found that as a test prep professional, I've had to walk that back a lot. We just don't have the time to allow things to unfold within the learner with 12 hours or 16 hours, whatever it may be. I've got to spoil a lot for the student. And so embracing that aspect of test prep, being the spoiler, has been interesting. But yeah, I've seen that it's effective. And it reduces the frustration in the kid. It gives them quick wins. The progress breeds confidence, and I think spoiling is a good thing. Well, except for spoiling a blue book test by yeah, throwing some of those questions at
That's
them
an
too early.
important disclaimer.
Yeah,
You have
yeah,
to
yeah,
qualify
yeah.
that.
I'd be kicked out of NTPA if I said something like that.
So, Ren, one final question. What is something most of your colleagues would be surprised to learn about you?
Yeah, they may not know that that we lived in Rwanda for 3.5 years. We were living and working there at an international school. I was teaching high school social studies and physics, and my wife was working there as the school counselor. And cool thing is, we had our first kid there
Wow.
in 2014, and he was a home birth, and our midwife was from Canada. So lots of random stuff going on there.
That's so cool.
What was your favorite part of living in Rwanda?
It was the people. I met so many cool people doing all kinds of interesting things. Like I said, entrepreneurship was not modeled for me. I had to go halfway around the world and see people doing all kinds of wild things, like moving from California to start a tobacco farm in Rwanda. And yeah, just seeing people doing different things got me thinking. And I got some ideas about what else I might do with myself. So yeah,
That's so wild. Ren,
yeah.
we could obviously talk about you all day. Unfortunately, we're out of time. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thanks, Mike. Thanks, Amy.
If listeners would like to get in touch with you, what's the best way for them to do that?
Email's great. My email is ren@telostutors.com. That's REN at TELOS tutors.com.
Awesome. We hope you enjoyed this discussion as much as we did. Be sure to join us for another fascinating topic and guest on the next Test and the Rest.
Did you enjoy this episode as much as we did? Find expanded links and more for this and all of our episodes at our show page at testsandtherest.com. While you're there, be sure to explore everything the larger TestBright site has to offer, including real, expert, unbiased answers to the toughest admissions testing questions. Of course, we'd love for you to rate, review, and subscribe to Test and the Rest on your favorite podcast platform. If there's a topic or guest you'd like us to feature, just let us know and spread the word.